Hello and welcome to this week's episode of GIANT's Healthy Innovators TV. I'm your host. My name is Barry Shrier, and on behalf of our sponsor, GIANT Health, I'm delighted to bring to you another one of the UK's leading doctors, NHS innovators, and champions of new tech and innovation in the UK. What we like to do with our high quality, interesting, and accomplished speakers in every one of these episodes is to introduce our audience, all of you both from the UK and internationally, to some of the most important topics in healthcare, some of the leading issues in medicine and public health, and to concern ourselves with how can we accomplish better healthcare outcomes at lower cost for the benefit of citizens everywhere. So today, I'm extremely happy to introduce to you my good friend, Dr. Michael Watts. Michael, nice to see you. How are you today?
Good, thanks, Barry. And how are you?
Yeah, doing extremely well. Thank you. Really glad to have you on board and looking forward to our conversation. So I just wanted to say, Michael, very briefly, for the benefit of our audience, Michael is an NHS doctor. He's also an NHS Innovation Accelerator Fellow. Michael is the co-founder, and CEO of Blum Health. And he was also voted by Health Tech World as the Young Health Tech Leader of the Year 2024. So, Michael, really proud to have you with us, and congratulations on your impressive career and the recognition that you deserve and are getting already. And so, congratulations already, and looking forward to our conversation.
You're too kind. Thanks.
Good. So, there's a lot of big issues in healthcare. We always talk about these, and we know about them already. I think most of our listeners are aware of challenges in healthcare. But to summarize, of course, populations are getting older, new diseases, obesity, type 2 diabetes, blah, blah, blah. Everybody in every country around the world wants more healthcare. No politician ever says, let's have less healthcare services in the future than we had last year. But we have limited resources. We have limited capability. We have gigantic national and international staffing challenges. We have strange new overhyped media situations like, will AI create robots that will replace doctors, blah, blah, blah. I think we're past all that. But Michael, let's start with you if you don't mind, and then we can look at some big themes that are important to you that are also of interest to our audience. Tell us briefly, please, about how you decided to get into medicine originally, what led you to study medicine and be a doctor, and also Blum Health, which is extremely interesting.
Yeah, so my journey started way back in A-levels. I decided that science was something that I wanted to do, and of all the different sciences, I saw making a career out of medicine as the biggest opportunity. I was already working in some form of care as a lifeguard, and was a HCA at my local gum clinic, which was a very interesting experience. So I'd already worked in healthcare from the age of about 17, 18. So I realized that was something that I wanted to do. And I actually didn't get into med school the first time. I went through clearing, did biomedical science, and then went to graduate entry medicine. So I took the long route, but I think it's enabled me to look at medicine with multiple lenses.
Yes.
A bit more sort of experience in employment, and from that realized through med school that whilst I was passionate about care and individualized care and patient to doctor care, I also wanted to think about large scale change, and that's when I looked at medical leadership and management and the opportunities that brought. So did some great courses with the Faculty for Medical Leadership and Management, FMLM, but realized very quickly that if I was to bring about the large scale change that I wanted to see in the NHS, it wasn't going to be very easy to do as a junior doctor on a training program. And then took the difficult decision to actually step away from training, reduce down my clinical impact and my clinical work, to then focus on digital innovation and clinical entrepreneurship, which is when I joined the program, started to go to startup schools like Doctorpreneurs, started to attend GIANT Health conferences. It was one of the first conferences I went to as a medical student. And so that's what led me to form Blum Health with my co-founder, James, because we saw that there was an opportunity to bring about large-scale change in the public and private sector of healthcare, both UK and internationally, and that's what we did.
Excellent. No, fantastic story, and quite a challenge, I would think. Did you encounter issues about, well, I'm a doctor and I'm possibly taking a large leap into the dark by leaving my role as a full-time doctor and going into business, so to speak. What was that like?
It was scary, risky, but also quite exciting because I saw the opportunities. It was all through COVID that this was happening, and back then, I say that like it was a long time ago, but it feels like a long time ago.
Indeed,
The resistance to change was low. The openness to change was high. We were trying new things, and as Bloom, we were trying new things, and some of those things stuck. So we were super lucky to be in
nice.
a position where the things we were doing were things that the industry needed, which obviously is what defines product market fit. Now that we are out of that era, some of those guards have gone back up, but ultimately it was about doing the things that needed to be done in terms of digital transformation up
Hmm.
until a point where the organization was self-sustaining to be able to take the risk of going full time with Bloom. The good thing about medicine and healthcare in general is that you can do part-time work, and you can do locum and bank work, which is a whole nother topic in and of itself. And I think actually we don't manage agency staffing well in terms of locum and bank, but I think that gave me the opportunity to sort of have a sort of phased introduction into the world of entrepreneurship, as
Yeah,
opposed to stop working, take on a load of risk, and then start a startup. And that meant that we could grow the organization organically as well.
nice.
So
Yeah, no, that's very interesting, and it makes a lot of sense to take that so-called phased approach rather than a dramatic overnight change. Very keen to hear more about Bloom, but before we talk about that, could you elaborate a little bit? You said you were a doctor, and obviously you felt like, well, maybe you could make a bigger difference, have a bigger impact, get more done, or accomplish wider, broader things with Bloom rather than as an individual doctor. What does that mean? Why can't doctors all come together and make change?
Um, we definitely need a clinical workforce. I mean, not everyone can do what I've done, otherwise there would be no clinical workforce. Similarly, if we all stay purely clinical, then we're going to really struggle to bring about change, because some of the best ideas come from the front line, right? I mean, all of the great healthcare professionals, doctors, nurses, allied health professionals, pharmacists, patients even now are coming out with new ideas. And I think we have to have this ability to flex, to innovate, because
Sure.
nothing will change. So what it means to me is I'm an A&E doctor, so I was seeing 6 to 8 patients, if I was lucky, a day. And that was great, but I was also seeing a lot of the problems that you see in A&E, which is a backlog. So you mentioned about actually, we have an aging population. We're not able to get patients through hospitals. Ultimately, when it comes to innovation, it's about 3 things. It's keeping patients out of hospital, reducing down their time in hospital, and having an effective discharge and keeping them out of hospital for as long as possible again. So I was looking at the NHS in those 3 ways and thinking, there's something possible here at all 3 parts of this process. And I'm in A&E, I'm at that bottleneck, I'm in that plug where there's nothing that A&E can do, because
No.
we've got blocked beds, we've got more patients than ever coming in through the front door because of a lack of preventative innovation or preventative care, and GPs at capacity all the time. So let me take a step away, look at the bigger picture, and see whether I could do more by populations and by innovation, rather
Hmm.
than the sort of focused 6 to 8 patients a day that I was seeing. So I had to take
Yeah.
a step away to think about what the bigger picture for transformation looked like, and I couldn't
Cool.
do that whilst in training.
Hmm. No, that's a helpful explanation, and it does make sense. And I suppose, though, one could argue, well, that is itself the challenge. In
Mhm.
other words, of course, we need all the clinical workers, but if they are at the coalface of innovation, how do you extract that from them and create the innovation while they're still doing their clinical work? Maybe that's where Bloom comes in.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the NHS has recognised that it needs to let its workforce have some flexibility, which is why you've now got fellowships and academic positions,
Hmm.
appointments and things like that, where it's more open to letting clinicians try their innovative flair, shall we
Yes.
say,
Yeah.
or do academia or research, as well as running the clinical show floor, or the actually running business as usual, which is patient care. So it has recognised that, and I think it's done it really well. I think the rate of change is too slow, and that's what leads those more sort of risk taking or people like myself to step away completely, to see, actually, can we take this to the next level and be able to support entrepreneurs, staff and patients in the NHS that do want to build new capabilities. We actually will take them on that journey. So that's where Blum came in. We actually provide that institutional technology partnership, whereby someone has a great idea.
Yeah.
We can go and find some grant funding. We can go and find some investor funding. We will build that capability for you and then help build that out into the ecosystem. So now we support
Nice.
NHS organizations with their development, their reselling capabilities, their internationalization, their regulatory compliance, becoming that sort of institutional CTO almost.
Yes. Yeah. Excellent. Say that again. Becoming the institutional.
CTO, so the
Oh, okay.
technology
Yeah.
partner
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And does that imply that this is not something that they're naturally good at themselves, that there is a better fit with an outside partner like Blum?
It's a balance, right? I think we can't outsource everything in the NHS because we're already spending a lot of money. I think it's a fine balance of recognizing what the NHS is good at, which is
Yeah,
care at the point of access.
sure.
We can't ever deviate away from that, but also recognizing that you never see a hedge fund do an inguinal hernia repair, right? I think we need to enable the NHS to do things above and beyond what it is set out to achieve, and where appropriate, internalize that capability, and where appropriate, actually say, this is not for the NHS to do.
That's right.
We can utilize industry collaboratively to work together to create additional capabilities, and we'll take on the risk. We'll take on the shared opportunity that brings. And I think that's where the NHS has a healthy relationship with SMEs, with large corporate. But it's about a fine balance, right?
Yeah,
We have to be able to demonstrate the value proposition to the NHS, because it's a massive organization in a massive cash deficit. Everything has to be towards reducing down the burdens of resourcing and spend. And if you can demonstrate that, then I believe that there is a place for us in the ecosystem of the public sector of health.
nice. Yeah, yeah, excellent. We'd love to hear a little bit more in detail about Bloom. How long have you guys been going? And what are some of your core activities these days?
So we're coming up to our 5-year birthday. So
Yay.
we're fairly young in the grand scheme of things still, fairly organically grown, because we really recognise the value of partnerships and collaboration. We started out as NHS ready software developers, so that was our key focus. So
Okay.
we had a team of engineers and clinicians that worked with NHS trusts, community care providers, clinical entrepreneurs, to help them build out bespoke capabilities. So we built software. But everything that we built, we would try and get their regulatory compliance out of the box. We'd support them with the pilot site testing and user acceptance testing, and
Nice.
we'd help them commercialize and sell their solutions into the wider opportunities, wider markets, and potentially even internationally as well.
Mm-hmm.
Now what we do is we have a number of solutions that we've co-developed and co-sold with the NHS, which we now win awards for. But we've also wrapped that engineering team with some consulting. So we now go and support with digital transformation, not just building apps, but also identifying internal capabilities, off-the-shelf procurement opportunities, because we don't want to reinvent wheels, right? We want our ideas to succeed, and whether that's our idea, someone else's idea,
Yes.
however we can grow out the SME market and work with large corporate partners as well, that's great. And also taking some of the innovation that we've done within the NHS and then introducing that internationally as well. So we do have a small but nicely formed international presence as well.
Oh, okay. Excellent. So starting as a software and engineering, moving into what more, if you will, process consultancy and
Yeah, it's more about sort of full stack digital and data transformation teams. So
Mhm.
whether anything from discovery, design, development, deployment, maintenance, and support, that
Yeah,
would be what we do. So we do that for a lot of SMEs, but also for a few public sector organizations as well.
nice. Excellent. I like the phrase full stack digital and data transformation. That's a very good one.
Thanks.
Well, look, tell us about some of your core kind of priorities or projects. What do you see as big themes? And we'd love to learn about how you guys are involved in those.
Sure. So within our provider network, our NHS trusts, our uh, community care providers, it's really about knuckling down on focus and priorities. I think a lot of particularly secondary care providers are going through EPR procurement at the moment.
Hmm.
What we are trying to do is support those organizations manage everything else whilst they focus on their EPR procurement, because they'll still have other operations like maternity, eyes, and all of the other sort of digital transformation that needs to happen whilst an EPR is being procured. So we're there to support with all of the other opportunities to create value proposition and return on investment whilst they are going through that. So that's a real focus within our public sector work at the moment. With
Mm.
SMEs, it's about creating sustainability, so providing value for money resourcing so that they can better manage their technical teams and we can help them grow out into new markets like international markets, diversifying away from life sciences into things like sports and exercise education. That's
Yeah.
something that we're starting to do ourselves and taking other
Okay.
people on that journeys.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we are very aligned with Giant on is supporting international organisations that are interested in the UK market as well, and
Yes. Yeah.
actually understanding the opportunities, the weaknesses, the threats, the strengths of the UK life sciences market, and what they could do to create value here and create jobs here, and we think that's important as well as the export of UK SMEs.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Well, that's very, very interesting. Quite a broad portfolio of activities, which is itself extremely interesting. You mentioned the EPR scenario ecosystem. Is it a timing issue? Are we at a 5 year, every 5 years, every 10 years thing, or why are hospitals now doing a lot of EPR uh, review or new buying?
I think it's been part of the long-term plan to have this centralized patient record or to have an electronic patient record. It's not centralized by the true meaning of the fact in terms of that, but having that core system within every hospital that allows for a patient's data to move through that hospital system. So I think that's been a real focus over the last 5 years, and
Okay.
is taking that long to go from what might we buy to let's buy it. I think some of the challenges that we've got is things are being bought in localized regions.
Sure.
And now the next challenge is how do we join that data sharing up from site to site, from hospital to hospital. So
Hmm.
I think this has always been part of the NHS England roadmap. It just so happens that we're all trying to get to that increased digital maturity.
Yes.
Funding allocated to buy electronic patient records. And so that's been a massive focus because it's such a fundamental change to the way that a hospital is run, especially for those hospitals that haven't previously had a full electronic patient record. The culture shift that the workforce will see in that hospital is quite
Yes.
significant, and that requires a lot of support.
Absolutely. Are individual hospitals or broader trusts, or is it happening at the ICB level? Who is refreshing or buying the new EPR platform, or starting with an EPR platform for the first time? Is it still happening quite locally?
So it should be happening at regional level. So ICBs should be influencing what electronic patient records are being procured. That's not a hard and fast rule. It's still very variable. But generally speaking, we need to be sharing records, and we need to therefore be sharing the software capabilities or the software types, at least within a region. In an ideal world, we should be able to share data and records nationally. But I think we're moving to that place. I don't really know how long that's going to take. I don't think anyone knows how long it might take to get to that place. But there's
No.
certainly a plan in place. But yeah, for now, the purchase of EPRs has been quite localized in terms of regions as opposed to a centralized adoption.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. No, that's fascinating. As you know, I am personally fairly new to healthcare. Most of my career has been in entrepreneurial tech stuff, but in other sectors like clean tech and so forth. So when I first kind of began taking an interest in and learning about the health sector was only about 8 or 10 years ago. And I do remember going to lots of conferences all about interoperability. And I do remember always falling asleep whenever anybody was talking about interoperability, which is, of course, my fault, not theirs. But it doesn't seem like we have necessarily cracked that nut. And obviously, I guess if one works for a particular platform provider, is there commercial benefit for them making their platform as interoperable as possible? Or is that too kind of simplistic of an observation?
I think NHS England, the very political answer is I think England were really torn as to what they could do, because adopting a single solution across the entire NHS would have created great benefit in terms of data sharing. Everyone's familiar with the system. All of the system is managed by one provider, but creating a monopoly in that way does carry additional risks. Similarly, having fragmented, individualized procurement processes would create a lot of inability to share data, but has also given local regions the ability to choose what they want. So what we needed was something in between, and whether or not we managed to strike that balance, I think will probably come out in the wash in the next couple of years.
Yes.
And I think that's been the challenge, is that either way it would have caused issues. Perhaps the idealistic view is that the NHS developed its own electronic patient record, but that would require a massive investment, a massive resource requirement, lots of time and energy and years to develop something like that. So I honestly don't know what the right strategy would have been, but this is where we're at. I think electronic patient record procurement is consuming a lot of focus
Yes.
locally at the moment. So
Yeah.
we have to think about what needs to happen whilst that is happening,
Mm, mm.
whilst everyone is focused on that.
Yeah. Oh no, that's helpful additional information. Um, Moving on, the international piece is very, very interesting. What are examples of what you guys do? And if you don't mind, we'd love to hear a little bit about, how is it that Blum is adding value in that important element of the entire health economy?
Yeah. So I think as an SME, there's always risk in terms of growing out an organization and sustaining and thriving. So we saw early internationalization as a great way to de-risk what we were
Oh,
doing with the
nice.
UK public sector.
Yeah.
It's scary, it's time consuming, it can be distracting, and it can be expensive.
Yeah.
So what we really started to do was build partnerships internationally, working with provider organizations, so other hospitals, piloting projects there, working with other SMEs and large organizations to really support us whilst we didn't have an office space in these local territories. And what we found actually was that because of the way that we've worked with the NHS, people really like the kind of innovation that we've been doing, because it's a little bit different. It's all around resource saving, cash releasing benefits,
Yeah.
creating clear value for money and return on investment. So we started to explore how we could be used in other systems like the US system, healthcare system, the Middle East in particular as well. And then similarly, looking at great organizations internationally and demonstrating how they might be applied to the UK healthcare industry as well. So showing them how to get a pilot site, what regulatory compliance looks like. So
Right.
kind of a knowledge share, all of the trials and tribulations that we've gone through, having been a UK SME, homegrown.
Yes.
So we can show them what we've done, warts and all, and then enable them to kind of learn from that as a sort
Nice.
of accelerator informally, whilst also thinking about how do we help other SMEs go out and explore the big wide world of global healthcare.
Yes. Would that be as a consultant, or are you taking like sales commissions directly, or providing advisory services?
So usually what we start off with is running workshops. So we'll run workshops with other accelerator organizations. So we've worked with the Department of Business and Trade, showing them how we've sort of internationalized without investment.
Hmm.
We're supporting the likes of Innovation Norway. So they're doing a trade mission to the UK, and we're showing them what we've done in this industry. We can provide consultancy services on how to do it. We don't generally do direct sales. That we have partners that do that.
Hmm.
But we're not really a sales firm per se, but we are that.
Yeah.
Where we really see success is where an organization leans on us to run their UK operations, to build out new capabilities, whether it's software engineering, regulatory compliance, and then we can introduce them to our partners here in the UK to take them that step further, whether it's regulatory accreditation, whether it's a sales team, marketing team, etc. So really
Nice.
trying to be that technical partner for
Excellent.
them.
Yeah, no, that's a cool niche as well, and that sounds obviously valuable for all of your partners, but quite specific. There's an awful lot of, I think, more broad, generalized how to sell into the NHS stuff out there, which perhaps isn't as insightful. So that's really good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we do need to understand that, because I think that's what everyone wants. But taking a step away from the sales pitch for a moment, I think it's more around the value proposition. How do we introduce value into the NHS? Commissioning will come eventually. If the NHS feels the value, they will commission it. But
Hmm.
there's so much that needs to happen for them to feel the value, that I think that's where we get caught up in the sticking point of being able to demonstrate return on investment, being able to demonstrate both the fiscal and clinical impacts that a project could have. And,
Yeah.
and then if that is felt, then commissioning will come. It's not a
Yes.
hard and fast rule. It's definitely not a quick rule. But I
Hmm.
think when it comes to selling to the NHS, I think we have to think about it as a more holistic. Well, what's the value? Why am I being bought, as opposed to why am I selling? So I think that's the way that we look at working with the public sector in the UK.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's extremely, extremely interesting. I haven't heard that phrase before. Why am I being bought? But of course, that's an extremely insightful, little concise, what do you want to call it, attitude, which I think could make a big difference in an awful lot of businesses' ambitions regarding how they present themselves and gain commercial success.
It works well, and I think one of the challenges that we've got is because NHS care is free at the point of access. You don't see the cost of anything moving around the system, right? If you're a clinician or if you're a patient, you don't see how much things cost typically day
Hmm.
to day. And what I
Hmm.
think that has done is it's created a distortion, or it's created a barrier to understanding the value of things like digital,
Hmm.
because you see a cost of
Hmm.
implementing a digital piece of software. And it's
Hmm.
like, that feels really expensive, but actually the value for money might be really clear. So I do think that has created challenges, because the cost of delivering care is not freely available for patients and staff on a day-to-day basis. So
Absolutely.
I think that does create some challenges.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, very intriguing. Um, Look, we're going to have to wrap up in a few minutes, Michael. I wish we could sit in a beer garden in a sunny pub and just continue this conversation for a few hours, because you have a lot of great insights and great experience, and we're keen to share as much of that as possible. And thank you for being so generous with your time today. But like I said, just thinking about wrapping up over the next few minutes, what would be examples of where you guys want to go over the next few years, and the relationship between that and how you see healthcare in the UK evolving over the next few years?
I think the industry, the healthcare system in the UK, it needs to take that next step of being able to share information across the whole network, across the whole of
Sure.
NHS, all four nations actually. So our position really is to support more organisations, share data between one another, creating
Hmm.
that ecosystem of interoperability and compliance, being able to develop new innovations that fit into the current ecosystem that we have, and really
Yes.
start to understand some of the data that is being made available in a safe and secure way. So that's our vision here. But then also putting that on a stage so that international healthcare providers can see the great work that is going on here in the UK, and
Exactly.
really trying to take that value outside of the UK as well. So that's our role, is to really be that digital health ecosystem orchestrator, and really support both SMEs and large organizations alike in terms of showing what good looks like from a digital health perspective.
Excellent. Yeah, no, that's a very on target and also very inspiring. Just to summarize, in terms of what you guys are doing directly, obviously we promote this channel as widely and broadly as possible. It's fairly UK centric in terms of our viewers, but a lot of people from elsewhere in continental Europe. Do you at Blum have any particular asks? Are you interviewing? Are you recruiting? Are you looking to communicate to any particular markets that we can share with you, or are you fundraising?
I mean, we're not currently fundraising. We're always looking at next opportunities. So I think our ask is, if we have, I know obviously Giant attracts a lot of clinical entrepreneurs and innovators. If they have wants and needs and they're looking to get started, then we can advise them on where to get started and how to start their entrepreneurial journey. And we'll see where it goes from there. I think for us, it's really about supporting the clinical workforce. We're always open to internships and supporting clinicians that are interested in the world of digital transformation. More than happy to host people, and hope to inspire the next sort of medical leaders and like myself.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's perfect. Well, look, Michael, thank you so much. And for all of our viewers, both within the UK and internationally, Michael can be reached at Blum Health. You say Blum, but it's BLUM health.co.uk. Is that correct?
There's an umlaut in there. Yeah. Sorry. It's really, really confusing. Thanks.
Yeah. Yep. But if I just type in BLUM health.co.uk, it will make it to you.
That's right. Yeah.
Not sure if I could find that umlaut on my keyboard, but
you don't need it, thankfully.
So we do invite all of our viewers to connect with Michael, and of course, looking forward to seeing you at the Giant Health event on the 9th and 10th of December in London. Our sponsor of these shows, of course, is Giant, www.giant.health. And Michael, really glad to be developing an ongoing association with you, and really proud of the good, important, and impactful work that you and Blum and your colleagues and partners are doing. So congratulations on all of that.
Likewise, Barry, and I look forward to seeing you in December.
Excellent. Thank you very much, and all the best.
Thanks.